Hello and welcome to my annual roundup of the kit that I would recommend that you have a look at if you're looking at making a new purchase, exploring a new part of radio control, or coming into radio control for the first time. Now, this is a video that I do once every year, same time every year actually, in August, and it's a chance for me to kind of pull all of the things that I get in here month to month, week to week, day to day, and kind of stack them up and say, okay, which are the ones that I would recommend that you get your hands on. As a content creator on YouTube, I've been doing this. Well, I've been on YouTube since 2007, making content, have nearly 2,500 videos at this point. I've played with pretty much everything, but not everything makes it into my flying bag for my own personal flying, and not everything would make it onto a list if somebody bumps into me at a show or at a flying day and says, oh, I'm thinking of buying this, what do you think? So this is an opportunity for me to round everything up, to talk about the best quads, the best planes, the best wings, the best radios, best FPV gear, and put it all in one place. So if I get that question, I have something that I can link that person to. There are a number of caveats around this though. This is my own personal list. Opinions are like belly buttons. This is the clean version of this particular saying. Everybody has one and everyone's entitled to one. And what is good for me might not be good for you. I did a video a while ago explaining why good, better and best are really, really crap ways to describe technology in radio control. Because what I'm interested in might not be the same thing that you're interested in. Similarly, somebody that I watch on YouTube or follow in a forum might have different priorities to me. So what is best for them necessarily isn't best for me. So it's probably worthwhile me defining the kind of pilot that I am to give you an idea of whether or not you are similar. I fly quads, wings, planes, all kinds of things. If it flies and's radio control, then I'm kind of excited about it. Even things like radio control helicopters. It's a pretty broad church here. I love tinkering too. So for me, something that needs a soldering iron or a little bit of PC time to set things up, running a program, connecting stuff by USB cables, doesn't faze me at all. However, I'm aware that there are people out there that their blood runs cold when you talk about flashing firmware and connecting things to a computer. My perfect day is going to the field with a selection of models, my favourite radio, my favourite goggles, and just hanging out and having a nice day flying. Not doing hard 3D, not shooting through hoops around a field. It's around getting into a large open space with my flying buddies and just having fun. Playing things like Follow the Leader, maidening planes, chatting and swapping ideas. And the final thing I'll say before I get into the list, I'll put timecodes down below, of course, is that I really like open source solutions, stuff that's created that we all get the benefit from, that's listening to pilots' feedback and isn't all around just ripping us off for the latest lot of hardware. So things like iNav, Betaflight, RD Pilot, things like OpenIPC, those kind of technologies I really, really like the idea of, because it means that not only are you going to be able to preserve the investment of the stuff that you buy, things like HTX, for example, the kind of default choice now, Express LRS, that kind of stuff is more interesting to me than buying a proprietary closed system that the vendor might decide next year that they're going to retire. And then guess what? I'm kind of in legacy mode. So let's talk about the stuff that I'd like to build with and make models with here. It's one of the big parts of the hobby that I really, really get a kick out of. For things like Betaflight and iNav, so that's usually going to be quads, wings or planes that are just kind of hobby based. I tend to really like the SpeedyBee stacks, the F405 wing and the SpeedyBee F405 wing mini. They're my default go-to now. They're very cheap and they work incredibly well. And there's a minimum amount of soldering and messing around. You also get all the cables that you need in those boxes too. The Maytech wing boards are also very good. However, I'm using those less and less at the moment. Things like the F405 WMN was actually something that I used in my ZOHD Dart, the original one, to keep that flying and to keep it running iNav. If it's a larger model and I'm doing a series on RD Pilot, then you can obviously run RD Pilot on the kind of boards that I've already talked about, but the gold standard is the Cube Orange Plus, the Cube Pilot Orange Plus. There's also technologies like the Holybro stuff, the Holybro Durandal and the 6C and the 6C Mini. I used a 6C Mini on my helicopter build recently. And then you've also got those Matex things as well. But most professional pilots these days would go for a Cube Pilot Cube Orange Plus. The way I tend to do it these days when I'm building something, I have a think about how I want to fly it and then decide whether or not that's going to mean it's an iNav, Betaflight or Ardu Pilot build, then pick the hardware. In terms of GPSs, I'm using an awful lot of the HGLRC M100 GPSs. They're really cheap and cheerful, significantly cheaper than the Matec GPS units I've been using until now. A friend clicked me onto these. I ordered a handful from Banggood and I've never looked back. In terms of batteries, well, it used to be Hobby King all the way, really, but these days it's Gaio Neng, I'm not sure how you say that, GN3 batteries, Genzace, Z, and Ovonic that I tend to use on all of my stuff now if I need to buy a battery for something. Radio controllers is an incredibly personal thing. I've talked about this in the past, and I'd recommend these days, if you're getting a new radio, get one that's HTX powered and is running Express LRS. It's the common default choice in the open source part of the hobby. The radios that I recommend that you have a look at would be, they're all Radiomaster actually, and that's simply because they just genuinely, in my opinion, make the best hardware. The Radiomaster GX12, the TX16S Mark II, the Boxer and the Zorro are the ones that I really like. They not only have enough switches for basic quad flying, but they have a few extras so you can do things with planes and wings too. And of course there is the very latest radio from Radiomaster, the TX15. Do check out my review from only a couple of weeks ago. That is a cracking radio that has both features of kind of Boxer and also the GX12 in that smaller form factor, but with the colour screen. Express LRS is obviously the default choice now for this stuff, and I would recommend, if you're looking at the future of the hobby, it's probably the safest bet in terms of a widely supported long-term protocol. Keep in mind, though, that the 900 megahertz versions, as far as I'm aware, are still not legal in the EU. However, the receivers for all the Express LRS stuff is cheap and versatile, and you can buy them from lots of different manufacturers with lots of different specs. I ordered my TX16S from Radiomaster with a 4-in-1 multi-protocol module. I probably wouldn't do it that way now. Multi-protocol modules for me are more about supporting the older legacy receivers, things like some of the Futaba style receivers that are in the all-in-one controllers on things like ready-to-fly helicopters. But apart from that, it's Express LRS for everything else. Digital FPV goggles is, again, something that's even more personal, and lots of people have very dearly held opinion. However, none of these are perfect. They all have drawbacks, but the ones that I personally fly is Walksnail, and I've tried all of this stuff. But the choices are the Walksnail HD system, HD Zero, which tends to be more for the quad racing with the super low latency, the DJI HD systems. At this point, there's 3 or 4 of them, Open IPC and things like the Edge HD FPV system, along with Ruby and other systems, are starting to come through now. And it's going to be interesting over the next year to see how these open source systems like Open IPC and Ruby FPV affect the landscape. Again, this is very much personal choice. Despite what you might read in the forums, no one system is perfect. So don't fall for the hype. Do look at the comparisons. If you get a chance to get your hands on goggles and try them out, it's really worthwhile doing to make sure that they fit your face and also that you can focus easily on the screens. In terms of chargers, well, the chargers that I use all the time here, I like Genzace stuff. Things like the iMars Dual are my go-to dual port charger that's by the side of my desk, and I use that all the time. The Genzace stuff is really solid, and the warranty actually works. I had to use the warranty once and they were fantastic. Toolkit RC stuff has got an awful lot better. There are people who've had bad experiences in the past, and every time you do a Toolkit RC video, they will comment on their experience. However, I found that it has improved drastically, so much so that I replaced my SkyRC Q200 4-port charger with a Toolkit RC Q6 AC as my 4-port charger, and it's been fantastic. I also used to use a lot of ISDT, but less often here. That stuff has gone into the backup pile in case one of my main chargers gives up the ghost. Radio control tools, not going to go through this in too much detail. There's loads of things that I would recommend that you kind of have a look at. Obviously, things like the Toolkit RC ST8 Servo Checker are fab. Things like the ViFly Short Saver is more useful than I expected. The Toolkit M8 charger, get yourself a decent multimeter. Electronic screwdriver is really handy too. A decent soldering iron though, and some decent lead-based solder will transform your experience doing the soldering if that's something that you're struggling with. I find a lot of the challenges that people are having with bad soldering is because they're using the wrong solder and a really cheap, crappy soldering iron. You'll probably notice that there are the same brands cropping up again and again in these lists so far. There are lots of brands that I trust. All the ones are kind of listed on the right hand side, but there are others as well. These are the kind of brands that tend to stand behind their products and have a professional approach to how they deal with customers and resellers and actually engage with the community. Just because it isn't on this list doesn't mean that it isn't a great vendor, but there are vendors that work really well with content creators and the community, and there are ones that don't. All the ones on the right hand side, I would say, are the ones that work well with the community and are actually listening to what we want. Probably one of the most interesting lists is this one here. This is the stuff that I use all the time for my own personal flying. Having access to the thousands of products that have come through here that I've had a look at over my time doing the content, this is the stuff that goes in the back of the car and goes to the field with me. Obviously, I'm running the Walksnail goggles. Interestingly, I'm using the V1 goggles still. Basically, they were Fat Shark HDO2s with the Walksnail system inside. I still really like those, and they go in the bag all the time. The goggles L are used for my head tracking setup, and obviously we have the new goggles X as well. I'm still using my FreeSky Taranis X9D Plus. Yeah, still using that. It's a great radio. Loads of my models still have FreeSky receivers in, and so long as that radio continues to work, I'm going to continue to use it. I personally think that the Taranis X9D Plus was FreeSky capturing lightning in a bottle. I wish Radiomaster would make a radio of almost identical proportions and identical switch layout, but I live in hope. I've been hoping for that for about the last 8 years. The Radiomaster radios that are going to the field with me are more often these days the GX12. I really like that more compact radio, and you'll see it more and more often in the flying that I'm doing and the testing that I'm doing. And the TX16S, along with an Express LRS Ranger module in the back, is being used less often. And that's only for me because the GX12 is a nicer size. It's much more smaller and compact, and I'm not bothered about the big colour radio. The wings and planes that I'm taking to the field, if you ever see me out flying, I guarantee there'll be 1, 2 or even 3 of these, and they go through rotation depending on the weather. ATOMRC Dolphin is my number 1 plane wing still in the whole list, specifically the Dolphin version 1, not the Pro. I think that they need to do a little bit more work on the Pro. It's not as easy to set up and get flying well as the version 1. The ATOMRC Swordfish and the Penguin, both twins that just want to be in the air. Gorgeous, beautiful, fantastic fly models. The VCI Dove is great on really calm days. The He-Wing T1 and T2 are fantastic options if you're looking for a twin with a bit more room inside. The T2 is obviously a lot bigger. I did that RD Pilot build with it in the last few months. And then the other one that really surprised me that is on here is the Reptile Dragon 2. That's a large twin. That's the one that I have my Walksnail pan and tilt system on. And that again is one of those planes that just loves to be in the air. Quads, the ones that I tend to grab when I'm going to the field, things like the Gep RC Crocodile Mini 4, a little 4S Endurance quad is a great little flyer. HGLR6 Recon 6, the Recon models that Dave C, I think it was, did with HGLRC are spectacular. Recon 5 and Recon 6, I think, are the best of the bunch. That's a great frame and flies really well. I did a Speedy Beat Sev build 5-inch using the Master 5 frame. That is one that I put all of my stuff and bits and pieces on. It's just one of those quads that just works every time and just flies beautifully. In terms of VTOL, there's nothing at the moment that I trust. I continue to be very disappointed with hobby grade VTOL. I've had nothing but issues, and my flying buddies have as well. VTOL is a very quick way to destroy a lot of money on your first or second flight. Anything I'm building new at the moment is still walk snail. I love the fact that the walk snail system, the new stuff, still works for my version 1 goggles. That's the kind of stuff that I like to see from manufacturers. And don't forget, if you don't want to have flight controllers and all that jazz, then check out the Sparrow V2 Pro. That's something that I looked at. Well, videos are coming out at the moment, actually. That's perfect for auto launch, return to home, on-screen displays, and you don't have to fire up a computer. So you may have noticed on that list, a lot of the kit that I'm talking about isn't the cheap stuff, and that's for a very specific reason. Cheap usually means lower quality, and lower quality usually means less fun. So the stuff that I tend to play with, and isn't always the case, occasionally you'll find an absolute gem that doesn't cost a bomb but actually works really well. But the stuff that I tend to get in, that I tend to fall in love with, is stuff that's built really well, and that might cost a little bit more. I would recommend that you view the purchase of things like the radio, charger, and your FPV goggles, things like that, as investments in the hobby. I like to buy those things and get 5 or 6 years out of them without kind of breaking a sweat. And if you invest in the kind of stuff that I'm talking about in these videos, then you should be okay with that. I personally don't mind spending a little bit better for the quality stuff that's going to last that long. That FreeSky Taranis X9D Plus is now 11 years old, something like that, and still going strong. I've had to replace a switch or two, done a couple of running repairs on it, but it's still working fantastically well. That only tends to happen with stuff that has that better quality. And the last comment I'll make in this update this time is that don't forget, this list is changing all the time. It's probably 90% the same as last year, because to be honest, stuff that I really like is kind of the stuff that mentally I'm comparing all the new stuff to, and it has to be something really special to pop one of these things off the list. An example of that is the Toolkit RC charger that I talked about before. Before that, my Q200 4-port charger I'd had for several years and absolutely loved. There was nothing that touched it in terms of its capabilities and the way it just worked really nicely for me. It took an awful lot, and it was eventually a Toolkit RC charger, of all things, that actually pipped it at the post. So this isn't a list that's been made by which manufacturer is sending me the most stuff. It's kind of made about the stuff that I actually like, trust, and enjoy using here in the hobby. So hopefully that's been interesting. Thanks again for watching the videos and the content. Do stay tuned, because I'm sure there will be stuff coming in that will change this list from when I do it in August 2026. Thank you for watching my video. Check out the playlist, and adding Painless360 to your search terms will help you find my content. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. You can support the time I spend here answering questions and helping others by using the links in the video description.